We'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners Management Conference Thursday, May the 13th. Second item is old business, so we'll move on to the action items. First item is carry on the bill with the scheduled discussion.
I had to give you guys something to do today.
Yeah. It'll be slate. This is quick, maybe.
It will be quick. There's a fee schedule.
Right.
Yes. Sorry, Mike, you have to share.
And Teresa, do you have a copy of this?
I do not.
Yeah, let's,
I'll go get it.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me borrow your, take mine. Yeah.
We can share.
Yeah, there we go. So,
Okay,
thank you for your time.
absolutely.
My brief experience with the Board of County Commissioners, I've identified a possible gap in fees for our fee schedule, which is maybe just a general tent fee versus a fireworks tent sales fee, which is listed at the bottom of the first page, fireworks sales tent permit. Sorry. So if you go in and you look at our fee schedule, if you're just a user of the system and you're trying to figure out if you need a tent for, and I can be wrong, Teresa can come to the table because she's really our area expert.
Come on up here, Teresa.
And she can correct me when I say wrong things.
I have a seat right here for
Or
you.
concur if I say right things. Seriously? Thank you. That's the hot seat. So I don't know about fireworks sales. I think if you just sell fireworks, and you put a tent over it, you have to pay a permit and get it inspected. I understand safety, you don't want things burning and people getting hurt. But I think per the building code, Teresa, and you can verify this for me, if you have a tent over 120 square feet, you're required to get a tent permit. So so we have fireworks sales tent permit, but we don't have just a regular tent permit. So if I'm somebody that has a business and I want to put a tent over my vegetable stand or whatnot, and it is over 120 square feet, that's a lot of vegetables, but just say, we use that as an example. I'll go onto our fee schedule and I will say, I don't need a tent permit. Is that correct? Ms. Teresa, right? That's the only tent permit that we have?
No, and we issue a lot of just regular tent permits.
So I don't see.
I know, and I hadn't noticed that before, because I think when Scott did this, it should have said just tent permit here on the upper one, and then the lower one maybe should have said by the linear foot. I hadn't noticed that before, and I mean, we all approved that, but I neglected, because we've always issued regular tent permits.
Great, how much are those?
They're the same price, and I'm sorry, I could have pulled all of our adjacent jurisdictions. I know I looked at some, but I didn't know this was on, so I'm so sorry. I didn't prepare more, but we did pulled this in the last 10 minutes. Out of 81 permits, only 19 of them have been for fireworks. So out of 81 permits in the last several years, most of them are for large gatherings, like American Airlines, churches, revivals. Some radio stations have gotten tent permits. So I was surprised that out of 81 tent permits, only 19 were for fireworks. There's never been any question about our fees. No one has, we've never had an issue with that. Our old schedule right before we changed this did say tent permit instead of.
So just left off, I
Yes.
guess.
No, this one shouldn't say fireworks sales tent permit. It should just say tent permit.
Okay.
And see, then for a calculation of your stands, it's got it there. I honestly, I didn't notice that before.
All that was 62 permits for $300.
Yes, well, that was somewhere before we raised our fees.
What was it previous?
I do not know that.
So is it more rigid if you need a fireworks in terms of the inspection?
No. The only difference, I asked the inspectors about that right before they left just now. The only thing they said they would ask differently is there would be no smoking signs at a fireworks. They inspect all the tie downs, all the fire extinguisher permits, all the, making sure there's no tripping hazard, making sure the electric that's run there for whatever use they're using, that the cords are covered and protected. All those things, they don't change. None of those things change, except on a fireworks permit, there's no smoking signs. And, and the other thing they have to check is the fire retardant certificate. That's on all tents. They said now they're always for fireworks, there always is a counter of sorts, and the fireworks are behind the counter. But there's no different in how they inspect the tent permit.
And what's the length that permit's good for?
They
Time
tell us
frame.
the length. They tell us the time period.
But the
Is there a
fee
maximum?
is the same,
Yes,
no matter if it's 1 week.
yes, they just have to tell us. The code doesn't allow you to leave tents up for long periods. And I didn't know we were doing this, or I would have looked that up, but no one ever does. I mean, no one leaves a tent up for a long period. Maybe, I think the ones we've done for even American Airlines, or maybe the radio stations that have done it before, it's not been from, a week or 10 days. Sometimes, like, I know the pumpkin patches may do it for a little longer, but the fee's the same. And other jurisdictions, like I do know Tulsa has a tent permit, and it's $75. It's cheaper. They also have an assembly permit. They have a beverage permit. They have a food permit, and all that ties into that, raising that price up very equal to ours, which is what we copied with Oklahoma County, because Oklahoma County doesn't have food permits and beverage permits and all the other permits like we don't have. So that's why we copied that fee schedule to make it consistent.
So I do know that your tent permit before it was raised to 300 was for non-fireworks. So it went from 25 to 300 for non-fireworks tents.
Okay.
So, and then it just dropped off the schedule completely. So people were asked, I was been asked about that. So that if it's that's an error, that's great.
Yeah, we just
fix
need
it.
to fix that. I don't know about I just really don't know what a standard tent was. I know that's why we changed the fireworks, and that's probably why that wording got worded here, because we were like at 10% of what other jurisdictions were charging for their fireworks. So that's probably why that got transposed over to here, but it just needs to say 10%, which keeps us consistent with like Oklahoma County.
What does it cost to rent a tent?
I have no idea.
I'm just curious. I mean, just if you're putting up a tent for a wedding.
We've done
Why
wedding.
not? I'm sure,
wedding,
I'm
but I
just thinking,
Yeah.
it just seems like a lot for a couple of days, but the inspection, I understand, is labor.
I think it's like $1,200 or $1,500 to rent a tent. I mean, the last I did for a wedding years ago for a child, it was like $1,200.
That's what we did when we worked with the courts on the out front.
Yeah.
During COVID, they were 15, 2,000, $2,500.
Yeah.
Depending, obviously depends on the size. And how long you keep it. and stuff.
Did
But
we get
yeah,
ours inspected and pay our fee?
You should not ever go look backwards. I cannot answer that. That'd be a building ops question.
Go on the bus. Go on the bus.
But still, as a solution, I think a regular tent should be maybe a little bit less than a fireworks, even though it's the same inspection. It sounds like, right? Same it is 70. I know that City of Jinx just charges building permits based on value. I didn't check in with Broken Arrow, and like you said, it's $70 at the City of Tulsa, and for each additional tent, it's $28. So
But
that's.
then
that's
they
how
do
they
have
work.
those additional fees for everything.
Yeah, but they have special events, and that's its own department. And if the director of special events reviews what your request is for tents, he'll say, this is not a special event, you're allowed to do this. So like, I own a grow facility and for plants, ferns, flowers, that kind of grow facility. And so a lot of set up in a parking lot and put tents. And so they think that they have to contact the special events, but they direct them right back to the city of Tulsa. If it's over 120 square feet, it's just that one tent. And so they send an inspector out, they get the permit, they put it up, they inspect it, make sure it's right, and everybody can walk through the aisles and whatnot underneath that tent. So that's, special events is a whole other ballgame.
How do we view special events in a tent?
It's this, I mean, our inspectors check for the same thing.
Do we charge extra to do
No,
those
we don't
reviews?
do, we
And
don't.
you're saying that the city of Tulsa, if it's a special
Yes.
event, city of Tulsa.
And they
does.
charge, if you're gonna have drinks, they charge for that. If you're going to have food, they charge for that. There's
Not that I'm
permits
aware
for, every one of those items, there's like, you've got to go through. And that's why when we took into consideration, we don't do any of that. And all those things are generally consistent with having the tenant. They usually have food and drink.
So the
Well, not
municipal
that-
special events, those charges are around, like, if you need security, they'll bring it in. If you need roads blocked, if you need barricades, that's what those fees are surrounding. I'm not aware of separate food fees.
We just
Whatnot.
went
I know that
on
you have to have your health department fees for that kind of stuff, but it's a special event or when it comes to development, it's just tent. So just put that out. It's just different. It's comparing apples to oranges, really, in my opinion, when it comes to special events.
Why is this so important?
Because I've been asked, I guess because the way it's listed, it says fireworks sales tent permit. And so my real concern was if people who needed tents and they went and saw the fee schedule, be like, we don't need a permit. That's really was the gap that I noticed, really.
So it's just a matter of crossing that out.
Yeah, it's a matter of adjusting that, which that's good news. So.
But for a vegetable stand guy, but they might, and like the flower people, they put their tents up for the summer.
And the independent person selling vegetables, I mean, can they
We have.
put one up,
those.
remove it, put it back up under the same permit?
No,
Okay, so every time
because
you take
each
it,
time they would have to, it would have to be re-inspected, that it was attached and that the fire extinguishers were current and available and that everything was for life safety issues. And we do have quite a few of those, down toward Bixby, the Carmichaels and the Shanks and some of those families down there that do the vegetables. It's never been a question. It's never been a problem.
I'd say I want a permit for 2 weeks and let's shut the doors on weekends and don't work those 2 days. Still the same permit for 2
Yes,
weeks.
but if you take it down
Right.
and say, okay, I have no crops right now, I'm gonna take it down to protect it from the weather, and in 3 months, I've got, pumpkins or tomatoes or whatever, then it would have to be inspected.
So the square footage, what if it's if I have a vegetable stand and I have a tent that's less than 120 square feet? Do we require them? And so I'm just trying to understand the International Building Code. So I think the 2018 International Building Code says if it's 120 square feet or more, then a tent permit is required for inspection. I think that's all what that says.
So
So
we're under 2015, and a tent is a tent is a tent, especially if you're gonna have public life safety issues. The electric running to it, the tie downs, the uplift of the wind, the concerns for that tent ending up in your neighbor's living room, with the way Oklahoma wind is, all that's the same, whether it's, no matter what size.
So that's just our call on safety on it. But I don't know what the 2015 says. Does it say, is it
I
identified per square
I
foot?
don't think, there's a code in the 2015 that says if a building is less than 120 square feet, you don't need a permit. I am not aware of it saying that on a tent, but for an individual, that might be true. But we're talking public and public safety and life safety issues of people and it's usually, I would say 99% of these, besides maybe the wedding on private property, are all commercial property. They're not. So it's not even the life safety issues are always going to be the very first thing we look at. Because if you're driving down the road and you see something going on with tents and you say, I want to stop, you have the right as a public person stepping foot on someone's property to assume that it has been inspected, protected, and is safe.
So then that brings me to, sorry, just
Okay.
real quick. So the expo and the fair and the fairway or any events that go on out there. So our permitting, our inspectors go and inspect all those tents.
They do.
Yeah, okay. I asked Mark and he said he didn't know, so I. wanted to
Our
verify that
inspectors
too.
do go out
And it's a
there.
$300 charge for,
Not to our own people, no.
well, vendors are not our own people.
But we don't charge for anything on the fair.
Now, Expo, we
Not
charge.
extra.
Yeah.
We don't charge. We don't get permit cost on anything.
What about Oktoberfest? Remember, do we inspect those tents as a,
That's a city.
so that
That's a
it's weird,
city.
okay, got it. You remember when that
Yeah.
Blew away.
was horrible?
That's a big tent.
Hold it big in head.
Did it really?
Oh.
She's trying to give me some excuse. Rough.
She hasn't been
That's
the same
wrong.
since.
Okay, but, you know, we might want to look at the amount we're charging for tents and to make sure that, you know, we're not grossly charging the users. That I know where you're coming from, and when you look at all the additional costs, I mean, this is much easier, this covers it all. But there are those that don't need all of that. Now, you know, the public's not complaining about our pricing, you know, it might be in line, but, you know, if there's a reason to lower some costs, then we can look at it. You know, we want to be fair to everybody and encourage it. We don't want, you know, somebody wanting to put up a tent, you know, can't afford, or it's, you know, difficult for them to put up one. $300 is a lot of money for
It
a
is a
day,
lot.
for a day, you know, I mean, or a weekend. So, you know, I don't mind elevating our costs where they need to be. But there might be some areas that, you know, once you peel it back, you can have some segments that might have a less costly structure to it. If it's, you know, maybe by the day or over a weekend or something.
But wouldn't the inspection of a fireworks tent and one that's not a fireworks tent pretty much require the same amount of man hours?
Probably,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, it's all about,
Yeah. If it's about,
taking
it's
our
all about
people out there.
recouping our
Yeah.
inspections, then, you know,
and
the
we've got
size
to
might
send,
not matter once you're there.
we've got to send building inspectors out to do their thing, and then we've got to send electrical inspectors out to do their thing.
If they have electricity, right? I mean, not everybody, don't you have to pull electrical permits on those separate? I mean, I don't know, I'm asking. That's just a question.
Yeah, if there's not electric and those items, is it just, what do you do on a generator? They plug in a light bulb, you expect that?
Yes.
Okay.
But if there's no electricity, that's where you get this.
Well, the
I just-
electricity, the electrical permit, the electrician pulls his own permit. So that's not, you know, that's either it is pulled or it isn't pulled. That, you know, has no bearing on the structure and the amount of time spent inspecting it.
So I'm just teaching myself here, sorry, taking the opportunity. So a building, so like a snow cone shack, is that a tent or is that a building? Or is that a different permit altogether? So Carrie wanted to put in Carrie's snow cones.
You'd have to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Well,
get
of course,
approval, And then you would seek a permit and it would be a commercial structure.
Commercial structure permit, okay, but not a tent permit.
No.
Okay. Thanks.
It's not.
But I mean, I think we could look at a different level. I mean, are our costs really $300 together? I just don't want it to be onerous for the small guy who's trying to do, you know, some weekend deal. I don't know. It just seems high.
Well,
I mean, again, we've not had any issues with that, except for the one, you know, on the west side, the fireworks lighting, this Torkelson. And And that all started because she put all her tents up without permits. So, I mean, that's been a whole nother thing. And I assume that's why that's coming up again, because she just emailed us about putting up tents again. But we, out of all of our permits, we've never had issues. Even when we raised the price,
Yeah.
we had comments of, oh my God, we loved it because you were so cheap before we got with the program and were equal to everyone else. And even then, they were like, well, it's just like everyone else now. So I mean, they loved it because we had just, why were our tent permits so cheap? It's because they had always been that cheap.
So I have so if you have an event going on and so you're saying it's covering the inspections fee for that $300, but so you have a property that has 4 tents, but it's $300 for each tent. Could we not look at doing the first tents $300 and then the additional tents are cheaper? Because you got one inspector going one time to look at all of them at the same time. So is there any way we can save?
If they were being done at the same time, but because tents usually aren't put up all together.
Well, you could put parameters around it. I mean, if they're all set at one time, we can work you a deal, right? I mean, you're gonna send an inspector
That
out
sure
there.
gets confusing for people, even on a price sheet. I
But
mean,
if I'm a business owner and I have 4 tents and that's 300 per tent, you know, I'm a small business, that's pretty steep. In my opinion. I mean, so those are the things I
But
think we
she's
can
not
look
really
at,
getting any complaints,
except for your person.
right?
I think Commissioner Slee.
I don't know. I
recommends
can
that
just start polling
you
it.
Review the fees to see if they're in line. And that
Come
kind
back.
yeah.
If there's some areas that we can identify. Do so.
Great.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one is BOCC appointees. We have, let's see, retirement board, Mr. Schuler, who expires on 7/1/21. John Fothergill expires 6/30/21 from the ACOG Economic Development District Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee. And those are the only two we're dealing with today, or is the division authority, yeah, the District Two Division Authority, Robert Lee, is he?
So, no longer mayor.
Okay, and we just appointed you, you know?
Yeah, Mr. Box, Corey Box, we did Corey,
I think you will be Corey Box.
I thought that, I think that might be done.
That one is done in the bottom.
Okay,
So I'm having thinking about retirement board.
well, for Stephen Schuler,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Schuler on here.
he's, able government rules, there's his
Was
resume.
his resignation,
Oh.
and he's done this for so long, I mean, nice guy. When if we already do something to thank him.
Carrie,
Sure.
and you may have the original copy.
Well,
Tracy, yeah, we need to send him a nice letter signed by all 3 of us, or a proclamation or something. How many years has he served? I mean, that's a thankless job.
The Schuler you're talking about, the
Yeah.
letters, his letter says, I think, some 30 years that he's been doing.
wow,
Let's do something.
since 1989. Oh, my
Voluntold.
We're not letting him go. You're-
No, and he's been so engaged.
So we need a replacement.
We'll never get somebody that great, but yeah. So is this somebody outside of our system that does this? So,
On the retirement board.
yeah,
She
was not employed.
Yeah,
Sherry's the one.
Okay, that will.
okay.
We
So,
need to check on what the parameters are around it.
I think if you'll look at the parameters maybe listed in the backup sheet. at the bottom.
Mike Craddock. Have you seen anything?
Uh,
Oh, here, it is.
yes, for this triplet line is on May 10th.
But that's Schuler.
Just like it's.
What do you-
Did she?
Oh, here it is. Right here. Got it.
I found it.
Okay. Okay,
One last-
he now lives in Dallas, Texas, he's still working in Tulsa. Okay. There's no statute requiring him to be a Tulsa County resident. Okay. One board appointee must be an attorney, and the other must be a CPA or PA. Schuler has been serving as our attorney. So. I wonder, so. I wonder if Mike, Mike has been. It seems like it'd be nice,
Has
yeah, somebody
internally-
invested.
yeah. We can visit with Michael Willis if his little staff would want to serve on that. If the board
Yeah.
would like to move forward with that.
Yeah.
Want
Okay.
to For that.
Yeah, but, and then let's, Julie, will you help make sure we follow up on something for Mr. Schuler? Maybe give him proclamation.
Well, I think, I mean, when it said one board member must be an attorney, one must be a CPA,
Right,
do we fill those obligations already? So we may not have an internal candidate.
Might not. Well, we'll review
What
that
about-
and,
yeah.
with recommendations. Any,
Tracy was, yeah, help us.
okay,
He was on first base.
all right. Anything, Commissioner Peters?
Go ahead and move forward, put ones on here. to the DOCC.
Good.
Yeah.
New business done. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Adjourn.
Yeah.